Hello, and welcome back to Behind the Scenes. I'm Debbie Torres, and today I'm going to talk about education versus experience. Which one is better? Which one's better for your overall career? Which will pay off? And what I think, based on my experience, you should do or consider at least. Okay, so first of all, education versus experience. I have seen the world change its views over time on the value of education. Yes, education is good, learning is great, and I do believe that we should take the time to invest in ourselves, invest in educating ourselves so that we can become rounded out individuals. We can learn about other perspectives in life. And for many years, at least when I was growing up, it was go to school, get your education, get your degree, whatever it is, get a good job, and then move forward and work through that 9 to 5 for the rest of your life, or at least the foreseeable future. And then that started to evolve over time, where a bachelor's degree was no longer considered good enough. You need a master's degree. That's the new high school education level. That's the new expectation. So that was like the base requirement. If you were going to have a lasting career, then those were the education requirements that you needed. And then after you get your master's degree, you would go to work, you'd get a good job. And then from there, there was encouragement or requirement to continue. Now you're in a field that is very specific, and there's always certifications that you should get. And then it just continued on and on and on. And what I observed, I did not go through the traditional way of education. I did get my degree. I have 2 different degrees, my main degree being in business, my other one in information systems. But what I saw was that those people around me who really bought into the fact that they needed to have their bachelor's, then their master's, and then they needed to go for certifications, and they were just a constant student. They ended up with a lot of book knowledge, but as a result, they didn't really rely on obtaining actual experience in the job. The approach that I ended up taking just out of necessity. It just turned out that that was kind of what I was dealt in terms of life. Yes, I graduated high school. I immediately went into college. I immediately found out that I didn't have much interest in what I was learning at the time. To me, it felt like, okay, this is just like an extension of high school. And I needed to work to support myself at the time. So I immediately went to work, and I didn't forget about college. I kept putting myself through college, but it slowed down the process. But as a result, I started getting experience, actual work experience, alongside getting the college education. So fast forward, as I completed those degrees, I actually had experience in the career I was working in and the one that I wanted to stay in. I was early in it, but still, those 2 things converged. And I ended up in a position where, because I was focused on getting experience, I advanced a lot faster than my counterparts who were worried more about getting certifications. So I'm not saying that you should abandon getting a degree, or that you should abandon thinking of where you want to get that degree from. I'm also not saying that you should get one if you don't have interest in going into a field that would require it. But what I am saying is that there is a lot more value that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing it current day especially. There's a lot more value in spending the time to get the experience that you need to get so that you can be successful in the career that you've chosen. I just saw that there was a Wall Street Journal article that came out that said that we have the highest rate of unemployed people under 35 with master's degrees that we've ever had. And if I think about that situation, I think in very rare cases, those people don't have debt, but in most cases, they probably do have student debt. And that's just not, it's not a really smart place to start your life out, or it's just not a smart place to really put yourself if you're really thinking about the big picture. I do think it's a little unfair that you have to figure out what your degree should be when you're 18 years old, and you haven't really even figured out how to understand the consequences of decision making, fully, not fully anyway. And so that's a really heavy decision to put on someone at that age. So if you're in that category where you haven't finished a degree or you're trying to figure it out, I would just say ease up on yourself. Look at the financial aspect of it. Figure out if it even makes sense for you. And if it does make sense, here are some things that you can do. All right. Number one, if you want to figure out how to work through the cost of the degree, there's, of course, you can apply for scholarships, you can apply for grants and different things like that. If that doesn't work, and if you are working in a company or you're looking for a job, an entry-level job somewhere, there are companies that pay for education expenses. Look into the benefits that people offer. I believe Starbucks, for example, even offers education benefits. Go about your search a little bit differently and look at the total picture and what it is that you're trying to go into, and then just figure out how to balance all of that out. But there are companies out there, they do pay education expenses. If you meet certain criteria, it'll be capped at, I don't know, $5,000-$6,000 a year, depending on the company. But if you meet the requirements of the job, which is work full time, be a good performing employee, that's usually what it is, then you can go to school and have work pay for part of it to offset that cost. And then you can do that same thing where you learn the skills and you learn the industry that you're in and you combine your education with it. That's an option. A second option would be to get more experience. If you're a person who you have the degrees, you have certificates, and you haven't figured out why those certificates are maybe not having as much positive impact on your job propositions as you thought they would, start to focus on the experience only piece. And you can do that several ways. One, if you're at a job and you really like that company and you like the industry that you're in and you want to learn more, volunteer for things that are outside your typical scope. Of course, keep doing your job and do it well, but talk to your boss and ask them if there are opportunities for you to learn more things. Tell them that you're trying to expand your knowledge in what the company does, and that you're just looking for volunteer opportunities to, a project or something to get involved with to give you more experience. For me, in my roles, I ended up working on projects with people who future down the road, they liked working with me. They went to other companies and they came back to get me to go to that company with them. So it's part of networking, but it was purely, I was working on the project to do a good job on the project. And this person just liked me and liked my way of working. And that ended up paying out in the future. That's a normal thing that happens. You meet somebody through just trying to get more experience and they like you, and it can lead, you never know where it can lead. So don't rule it out. If you're not working somewhere and you want to learn about an industry, you can still volunteer. Of course, if finances are an issue or you're concerned about actually getting a real job, certainly focus on that first. But do the same thing. Just ask if you can volunteer, and that will give you more and more experience. The other thing is, instead of being really concerned about promotion only, you could also take a lateral type of role. And you could, and by that, I just mean whatever level you're working at, instead of trying to get the next level up in the same thing, move to a different position in a different area so that you can learn more about it. There are a lot of companies most companies that I've seen, and all of the companies that I've worked for, were very supportive of that type of activity. And then as you're doing all of these things, you're assessing your education, balancing experience versus education, and really trying to round out your experience. Don't forget to make sure that you have a healthy amount of drive. So drive, meaning the personality and the energy that you put behind whatever it is that you're doing, is going to be noticed. It's going to be noticed if you don't have drive. It's going to be noticed if you just do the bare minimum. You don't have to be the cheeriest, cheerleader in the room, but if you do your job with enthusiasm and you learn with enthusiasm and you're open and honest about where you might need help, you'll find that people will really respect that and they will gravitate toward you. They'll help out and help you through that journey. So don't be afraid to reach out and volunteer for things that you're not comfortable with. So all of that to say, Education versus experience, what's better? It's important to have an education for sure, but it is even more important to have the experience and to develop that expertise in an area, expertise in a field, and that is going to be the thing that will help drive and advance your career quicker than simply having an education, multiple certificates, etc. Again, not saying don't go get that education and don't invest in yourself. You absolutely should, but you should understand that paying for classes and certificates is not going to be the thing that helps you advance your career. That's, of course, excluding jobs where you absolutely need to have certificates for them. I'm just saying, like, the extra stuff that they like to throw on you. Anyway, thank you for joining. Hopefully this helped a little bit, helped you at least think about how to balance the difference between should I go take another class or get another certificate, get another degree, or should I just try to hammer my way through work? I would just say go to work. It doesn't matter if it's a lower level job than you think that you might want or entry, it just doesn't matter. Go in, get that experience, and yeah, good luck. All right. Thanks for joining. Bye.